So you want to be a dungeon master and start your first campaign. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you the next 3 steps to get that done. If you haven't watched the first video in this series, you might want to go and check it out before doing these next steps. So I'll put a link to that video in the description. And if you've already watched it, then let's get straight into it. Step 4, magic. So initially you need to decide whether or not you want magic in your campaign. Will people be able to cast arcane spells? Now, rather than have it yes or no, you might choose somewhere along that line. For example, it might be possible to cast spells, but the people who can do this might be scarce or few, or people might even be just starting to discover how to cast magical spells. Magic can change the whole feel of the campaign. It can bring very high damage to combat and also provide the players with utility spells such as invisibility, fly, or teleport. If you decide to include magic in your campaign, then you next need to consider where the resource for powering those spells will come from. It might be that the user just is able to cast those spells from a power within, and they can cast a certain number of spells per day. Or there might be a resource such as power points, and these power points fuel the spells, so casters can cast as many spells as they want as long as they've got power points. I'm always in favor of power points, but even with this decided, you still must consider where that power comes from. Does the spellcaster draw it from the life force around them like in Dark Sun? Or are the power points just within the caster themselves, and when they are all used up, the caster collapses unconscious? Of course, you can have different types of spellcasters using various types of spells and resources. So in this one step, there's quite a lot to make a decision about. And once you've decided to have magic in your campaign, you might also want to start to consider magical items. But that's a discussion for a different video. Step 5, religions and clerics. Clerics or theists are always the great healers in any campaign, and with them comes their religion. Divine beings are usually the supplier of this healing magic, but they don't have to be. It might be that the casters from the previous step provide the healing in your campaign, or even a religion based on, say, spirits or nature itself. If you do decide to go with religion and divine beings, then please don't think that you have to make up all the gods and goddesses right at the start of your campaign. What you need to do is talk to the players who want to play a cleric and to create the deities that fit into that character's concept. But for a campaign, there is more to think about the gods and goddesses when you're thinking about a religion. Is the religion an essential part of the campaign? Do the clergy engage in politics and advise rulers? Or is it just a minor part, with religion being something that most people have forgotten about or even moved away from? It is also worth considering the average person's view about religion. Do they worship it because of its benefits or because they fear it? Are the clerics hated so much that they live in hiding, or are they a powerful force to be reckoned with? Answering these questions will help you define a role for the religion in your campaign and how it will impact on your future adventures and narratives. Step 6, the era of the campaign. You might have already decided that your campaign world will be the typical fantasy world that people are familiar with in most stories and fiction and films. However, there are alternatives to this and some clarification that you might need to consider. For example, what materials are available in your campaign? Are armor and weapons made out of bone because iron is so scarce and unavailable to most people? Or has blacksmithing developed so that iron can be used effectively to craft weapons and armor, so plate and chain are readily available? Is there a difference between the social class systems so that the more robust material are only available for the rich and the nobles of the land? In any campaign, the land has probably seen conflict, whether these be civil wars or invasions. Is the crafting levels high enough to build siege engines, or were the battles fought on the ground mainly hand to hand? What about black powder? Has gunpowder been discovered and crafted? Is there the early stages of guns? Considering how people travel can also give an ideas about the level of technology in your world. You might just say that the people travel on foot or by horses, but you might say that wagons and carts can be used. Are ships substantial enough to make long trips across the seas, and have airships started to be invented? And finally, you need to think about goods and how these are bought and sold. At a basic level, these will rely on a simple bartering system, but have coins started to make an appearance? And what are these made out of? Gold pieces might not be very common at all, with silver pieces being the usual coin used, or even pewter or copper. And again, is there a difference between the social classes? With all these questions, you might just slide into the usual type of world that you see in Dungeons and Dragons, but you do have the opportunity to make your campaign world unique from the onset, and this will make it more enjoyable for the players. With all that decided on, you are well on your way to create your first campaign world. Don't forget to subscribe and press that notification bell so you'll be alerted for the next video in this series. Until then, if you would like to start your campaign in 3 easy steps, then watch this video next.